Hi everyone, Lee here, aka Limo57. I hope you're safe and I hope you're well. Just a quick message to remember that your mental health matters, your mind matters, and if you are struggling, please reach out. It is okay not to be okay. You can get in touch with me personally via Discord, via Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any of the social media platforms, and you can also find the charity that I'm a director for, which is Evolving Mindset, and you can go to www.evolvingmindset.co.uk and you can see the support that we offer there as well. We offer free online advice, support, education and guidance, so please remember you're not on your own. You're not on your own in this community. Remember, mental health matters and your mind matters. Please get in touch and don't suffer in silence.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I am, of course, your host, Tony Jameson, and joining me as always is the one and only Rich Owens. Rich, how the devil are you, buddy?
Hello, mate. Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. Thank you very much. I had a full-on partridge moment earlier today where I pierced my foot on a spike. Drawing pin, though. It was a drawing pin, which wasn't as bad, but I made out it was. Unfortunately, my 6-year-old and 4-year-old didn't understand the reference when I shouted it across the room at them. They just carried on colouring, so they're dead to me.
Have you got a neighbour called Dan, by any chance, that you shouted at for several minutes?
No, but I'm going to. After this, I'm going out into the garden just to do it, just so I can say I have.
Why not, mate?
Yeah,
Exactly what you need to do. You're orange injured as well at this point, so.
Exactly. Give me an injection and I can probably get through the rest of the podcast. Otherwise, I'm out injured for 2-3 weeks. So we'll see how I get on. If I need subbing in at any point, I'll do the gesture.
To be fair, Mr. Diz did a cracking job last week. So if we do need a substitute, we'll get him in on the call. So
he's there, isn't he? Breathing down my neck, and you know he'd be on in a second as well, and he'd do an exponentially better job than me as well. But until then, Diz, I'll do this episode. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no. It's as we said before, Rich. It's your job, and it's your job only. Okay, so that's where we are, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, this episode, we're gonna tell you all that we've recorded. Probably, I'm just looking at the clock now. A couple of hours after the final whistle has just blown in the Wales-Ukraine game. So congratulations to all of our Welsh listeners and followers and friends and former co-hosts who are going to the World Cup. Well done that. Of course, congratulations to Scotland, who chose to morally object to the World Cup and refused to go for moral reasons and therefore have taken a much higher ground stance and if anything, I think come out better.
Absolutely. How is the view, by the way, up there from your highest of high horses?
Hard to say.
Everyone
cloudy
looks
at the minute.
Yeah.
When you're at the top of the world's tallest mountain and you're looking down and you're like, the view, you tend to look across rather than down because you're looking down, it's just that's fields really. Looking across, you just probably see a Starbucks if I really squint. But yeah, the air's very thin up here. Send help. We're coming back down now. It's rubbish.
Yeah, climb back on down to the rest of our level, please. We'll be fine.
Absolutely. Who needs winter sun and Scottish skin? Nobody.
Absolutely nobody. Who needs high-profile international tournaments? Not Scotland. That's who.
If there's one thing we've proved we do not need in recent years, it is international tournaments. We've got our holidays booked. We're not rescheduling anything.
Exactly. Who wants to fly in November? Nobody. Absolutely nobody.
Exactly. So that's one set of playoff success. We'll also talk about one playoff failure. Or rather, failure to reach the playoffs. Look at that, Rich, an actual link.
Look at that. It's like we planned it, which we didn't. That's what makes it so good.
We're learning. people who've been following the Story Hunter on Twitch might have been aware of the fact that we have missed out on our first potential narrative plot point, I suppose, of taking a team very, very low and getting them into the playoffs in the first season. We missed out on the penultimate game. Missed out on the playoffs by 3 points, which, to be fair, I think is a fairly good narrative point for season one, to be honest, to take a team who were 18th at the time, and then we went on a bit of a tear up in terms of we were pretty decent consistency going forward, got some good results, brought some players in towards the deadline day. We trialed David Nugent.
Super Dave, my hero, my absolute hero. 1 cap, 1 goal. What a boy. What an absolute boy.
We looked at him and we thought, do we go for him? Maybe. But then we saw Nathan Blissett, who's 6'5", and I was already clicking accept. Like, I was just, didn't even see if he had anything in his trial. He turned up and I went, oh, I can see him from miles. Get him in. And David Nugent turned up with a CV and recommendations. I was like, David, it's lovely having you here, but unfortunately, you're taking up a car parking space. Could you leave? And Nathan Blissett turned up, and my word, he was the difference maker. He was terrorizing defenses because, of course, he was. He's 6'5".
Oh, exactly,
he was having an amazing time creating goals, scoring goals, and he got us so close. We could almost touch it, but not quite. It just wasn't quite meant to be. And we've sort of licked our wounds a little bit, done a bit of preseason planning, and we've obviously started season 2. But at that point, that made me start thinking about this episode because, of course, we've just finished the playoffs for the Football League. Again, also congratulations to Grimsby, who got promoted today back into the Football League. Some incredible matches in the playoffs. They always say it's the best way to go up, but is it the most horrific way to fail?
I think it has to be, doesn't it? Missing out via the playoffs, because a lot of the time, a lot of the teams that end up in those playoff places are working so hard to get there. Those last 2-3 months of the season, a lot of the time, it's so tight. It's so tight at the top of those tables. To finally get through to the playoffs, there's almost no relief. I mean, it happened with Sheffield Wednesday this season. It was touch and go for the last few months. It's just so tight at the top of League One, and then you qualify for the playoffs, and then I said there's no time to be relieved. There's no time to enjoy that, because suddenly straight away you've got another 2 hugely important games coming up, and then to lose in that fashion, to go out in the playoffs, for me, as a fan of a club that I've been involved recently, I think that's more disappointing, because as soon as you get into those playoffs, your thought process starts going, well, we could do this. We could actually, this is doable. We could be all right here. We're only 3 games away from promotion, and we've worked so hard to get here. And you talk yourself into it. It's a lot of the time, the teams you want to watch out for going into the playoffs are the teams that hit form, towards the end of the season. I've always said it, the team that's kind of been there or thereabouts chasing the top 2, for example, League One being a prime example of that. The team that's kind of sat around 3rd or 4th all season, the complacency can slip in a little bit, because you start thinking, okay, we've got this. We're going to be there or thereabouts.
Or a bit of fatigue, and it's that frustration of just missing out and going, can we go again? And you're right, those teams who are on form coming in, that's when you start to look at teams who are 5th and 6th going, okay, there's a belief in their camp.
Yeah, these are the teams that have often had to really fight for those last 2 places. The ones that are like, right, so it's sound the cliche klaxon, but every game's a cup final now. Every 3 points is vital, and it's those teams that scrape in there. It's those teams that just get in those last couple of weeks of the season. Those are the ones that have got the form behind them. Those are the ones that are the belief is there, the motivation is there. If you're a team that's been sat there in 3rd or 4th all season, just going, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. There's a big enough gap between us and 7th, for example. That's the position you don't want to be in, for me.
And are you a fan of the playoff format? Do you enjoy the playoffs as an end of season sort of decision making process, or would you prefer it to just be like top 3 go up, and take all that out, or do you like the drama?
No, I think it adds. I'm personally, I'm a fan. You know, as somebody who's watched their team fail 3 or 4 times now in the past decade or so. To go up via the playoffs. I still enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. It's a stressful experience, but it's an enjoyable one because you just, like I say, there's just that little extra bit of belief. It's that extra little bit of narrative that's just there. Like this could be it now. This could be, we're only a few games away. This could be the chance. So I'm all for it. I think it gives more teams something to aim for because automatic qualification is all well. There's always going to be teams in a league format that are going to be favourites via automatic qualification. You're always going to have your favourites come the beginning of the season. But it gives those teams that aren't necessarily those favourites, they still have the opportunity, if the form is good enough, to have the opportunity to play for something a bit extra. Because it's all well and good playing comparatively well for a season and finishing. If you finish 5th, but there's nothing to play for in finishing 5th, you're like, well, the motivation starts to slip a little bit there. But giving an additional 4 clubs the opportunity to fight for something a little bit more, I'm a big fan of. I mean, it works. There's different kind of playoff and end of season structures in all manner of European leagues as well. Like, look at the way they do it in Belgium, for example. The whole thing just splits into 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or however many it may be. It's like, right, you're going to play
and then just get rid of the points as well. Go, right, it doesn't matter what points you had. We're starting again. Like that's school rules. That's not a top division in Europe. Right, they might as well say, right, okay, season's done really well. You've done great so far, but next goal wins, lads.
Yeah.
What? No.
Yeah, and it's Club Bruce. Well, if we concede, we're taking the ball. We're going home. Season's null and void. Yeah.
Yeah, if it was my Club Bruce, then I wouldn't win because I didn't score until the last few minutes of every single match. So terrible.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What about, are you a playoffs guy? Are you?
Man, I probably no surprise at all. I love the playoffs. Of course I do. Of course I do. I mean, I'm all for it. Yeah, like as you say, I love the fact that you can potentially, in some instances, be 30 points away from automatic promotion and still be sat there going, "Guess who's going up?" Like, it just absolutely shits on the team who's worked really hard and finished in 3rd and just burnt out a little bit. You're right. It gives something to aim for because, of course, the top divisions have got European competitions to play for. Whereas if you then only have 3 positions of promotion, we're using 3 as the sort of arbitrary figure really for promotion and relegation. If there's only that to aim for, then there's not really much for your mid-table sides. And the playoff games themselves tend to be pretty fun. They used to be cagey affairs. But this season's playoffs, in particular, just absolute dynamite fixtures. Every single one of them had drama, had intrigue, had great performances. Teams raising their expectations and raising their games because they know what's at stake. And I guess maybe that's because of course, the amount of money that's now involved within these divisions that you look at. Again, if we use our example here, the Sunderland-Sheffield Wednesday game, that's 2 huge clubs who don't want to stay in League One for another season because they know that that's a knock-on effect to that club for another year. Got to get out of the Championship, otherwise because you know who's coming down. You can already see Derby coming down. You're like, we don't need another big club here that's gonna keep us down for another season. Into the Championship, of course, they always say that that's the most expensive game in football once you get to the playoff final. But looking into your non-league fixtures as well, that battle to get into the Football League, that battle to get out of Vanarama North or South into the Vanarama National League, there were some epic battles, absolutely epic battles, and I genuinely love it. I mean, I've been to one playoff final, which I'm sure people know about. I'm sure I've mentioned it before. I was there in the Sunderland Charlton 4-4 penalty defeat, which was an amazing game to watch as a neutral. But yeah, to be sat there watching the penalty that gets saved to go like, it's another season of no promotion. Like that is so hard to watch. And again, I've watched, when I was a Villa fan, I watched them both fail and win a playoff final from the Championship. So I've seen both sides of that, and I am a fan. I am a fan. And on FM, Massive fan.
Oh,
Massive
yes.
fan.
Oh, yes. Yeah. FM playoffs. The in any league are wonderful. I mean, I've talked about it before when I was start of this game cycle managing offline in Mexico with Atletico San Luis. I won the league in the second season, I suppose, but Mexico's weird because it splits into, you have an opening phase and a closing stage. I won the closing stage. So, and I don't think I've talked about this. When the closing stage, Tony, would you like to guess of the 17 games that you play in the closing stage in Mexico before it gets into the knockout phase, how many games of football I won? And bearing in mind, I won this is the season that I won the league. How many games of football I won in the actual league format part?
Of 17 fixtures
out of 17 fixtures to play, how many did I win?
The league, I'm thinking, what, 15, 6, maybe 14, probably the lowest, I reckon.
No. Significantly less. 4.
I mean, that sounds like a league I could win.
Exactly. I won 4 games. Bearing in mind, I won the last game of the regular season. We won, and that puts us into, I think, 12th. And 12th is the absolute lowest you can be in the league when it then splits into the knockout stage.
Incredible.
So
incredible.
I won the league after winning 4 games of 4 games in the league. You can still go on and win the whole thing. I was like, this league speaks to me on such a personal level.
That would be incredible. That would be like giving Crystal Palace a chance, like in April, going like, I know things haven't looked great, but if you get 3 more points, you can be in the Champions League. Like, all right, okay, let's do that then.
Yeah,
I like the sound of that. A lot. I mean, the South America's weird, don't it? Because they also have relegation playoffs or average points can relegate you as well, which I looked into briefly. Dave Goodge is a man who understands this a lot because he's managed a lot in South America this year. But to get average points, which I think is to protect the larger teams from being relegated, because, that's what happens in South America quite a lot. Big teams go down. Hello, Brazil. Currently, the Brazilian Segunda division is like pretty much Serie A, really. It's full of great teams. But, yeah, the idea of average points to keep you in the league, I'm all about struggling to keep a team in the division. I'm all about that, right? But don't chuck maths into the equation as well. Like, I don't need that.
Yeah. Don't make me have to get a calculator out. I have no interest in that.
Tell me how many points I need. Tell me how few games I've got to do it. I'll do it. But don't go like, yeah, but on average points. No. I'm aiming for 40 points because it's always 40 points. I don't care what the league it is. It's 40 points. That'll do me. That'll do me absolutely fine. Absolutely. And have you had success in the playoffs in FM?
This year,
what's been your most successful playoffs? I suppose is probably a more pertinent question.
I mean, by an absolute country mile, it was in my FM21 Sheffield Wednesday save. Went via the playoffs at end of season 3, I think it was. Went via the playoffs, beat Newcastle. I
think I remember this. This was Twitch, wasn't it?
It was on Twitch. There were people in.
Yeah.
Shout out Billy Gilmore in the 80th odd minute. I'm so sorry, headphone users. I still think there are some that haven't recovered because there was some shouting. There was some passion. Having lost in the final the year previously, to then getting another go at it. And again, that season, the season we went up, we finished 6th in the championship, and it was the run to finish 6th was incredible. We had to beat teams like Fulham and Bournemouth, who'd already got automatic promotion at that point. Like taking points against them, carrying that momentum on into the knockouts. We were, looking at the teams in the playoffs. We would have been nobody's favourites, like by quite some considerable distance. And then carried on the form, and then going up via those playoffs, beating Newcastle. That was a nice feeling. I massively enjoyed that.
Yeah, man, beautiful scenes, absolutely beautiful scenes. Like, again, I think FM21 for me, I think was again, streaming it makes it something else, doesn't it? Because everyone shares in that experience. Like, obviously, when we were at Posh, we missed out on we bottled the playoffs a couple of times in that first few seasons in League One, and it almost became this albatross around our neck to go like, we have to to win the playoffs. And it was always Sunderland or I think it was Swindon or Burton. I think we ended up having like this. These are the three tiny teams who kept like getting us at the end of the season, and eventually we won the playoffs, which was great because that meant that we could then move up into the championship, and all of a sudden things just changed for that save from there, and it was like, yeah, let's go from there. But yeah, I think for me, missing out in the playoffs as well is one of those ones. Like Mozza actually tweeted out this week that it hits differently when you lose a playoffs on FM, and I was like, you know what, I get that. I get that. There's a lot of sadness because again, you've put a lot of time and effort into a season and a save, and then to miss out at that last point, you're like, oh, now what? Because for me, it always then leads you into, well, how much of this team's staying? What do I have to change? Where are we going next? Of course, we always do what we do when we put it out to our community and we say, look, how do you guys feel about your playoffs? And shout out to FM Trek, who of course we sort of like shout out his YouTube series a couple of weeks ago. This one for me, 5 playoff defeats in a row currently with Athletic Club York in the National League. I'm just sitting there going, oh god, that sounds a little bit too close to home for my liking. 2 final defeats in the last 2 years. The latest one was leading until East Lee scored 2 late goals, and then we missed a penalty in the 93rd minute. Now, Trek, I love you. That is beautiful. It's so beautiful. That's how you lose the playoffs. If you're going to lose it like that.
Oh, losing style. I mean, I hate that that's happened, but I'm also glad that it's happened to somebody that isn't me. Because I don't think I could bounce back. I don't think there's any coming back from that. I physically couldn't. I think 5 in a row as well. 5 in a row.
There's a foot going through your computer at that point, isn't there? Like after the 4th, you're sitting there going, you're staring at the screen going, you can't do that live. You can't see that live, can you?
No.
Sai Maggio has replied, if it's not the 27-team Italian Serie C playoffs, is it even a playoffs? I mean, he's right with that as well, because that is, you talk about Belgium doing things, like Italy, of course, do things differently. Of course they do. They just looked and went, playoffs, you say? How's about everybody plays off together? Because we have 4 divisions that are Serie C. Because of course we do. Why not have 4 more divisions? So that's an interesting one. I actually had to win the league there to even avoid anything of that. I'm not getting involved in that.
No time for any of that. No, win the league or just kill the save. I'm not doing playoffs in that respect.
Move on.
Yeah. Time to move on. No.
Just at the end of the season says you have reached the playoffs and you go, oh, resign. Good. Okay.
Okay. Well, it's been fun.
Terribly sorry.
Yeah. I left the oven on at home 10 months ago. I should get back to that. Sorry, guys. I have to go now. My planet needs me.
Yeah, you've just managed to secure the playoffs. How do you feel? I'm going through a tunnel. Okay, sorry, I've lost signal. Can't continue this conversation as you're on the pitch trying to do that. Calcio 22 in my journeyman FM20 save. I got my first job in the Conference South. Team was bottom when I took over in November. Big fan of this already. Scraped the last playoff place, went up. Narrative point. Teams was miles off, ready for the next level, struggled for the first 4 months in the drop zone of the Conference National, offered the chance at a mid-table Conference National team, scrapes the playoffs again with this new team, wins the playoffs, miles off League 2 level, starts to panic, consecutive promotions. Neither team had any realistic chance of staying up. It was great fun to play. That is how you hop in it. Get to the point where you're going, oh, we're struggling a bit. Take the next step up and then do it all over again. I love that. I love it. One more we've got here, and this one, we have to do this one because, again, this is from 18 Nat Jonesy. The reason we're doing it is because Mr. Matt Richards, who, of course, our former presenter, will be very, very happy with this, went on holiday for the first season and took over Merthyr Tydfil.
Hey, there we go.
In the summer, after they'd been promoted to the Conference North-South, we then made it 3 promotions in a row as I won the playoffs with them 2 years running to end up in League 2.
Oh, Beautiful.
Wonderful scenes there.
Beautiful.
Wonderful scenes. Awesome work from everybody who's involved in playoff success. Not some, well, of course, if you track a bit of playoff misery there. So just to balance the books out, But we mentioned there at that point, there is a decision to be made. Okay, you're already looking at your squad for next season. Particularly for me, I manage lower leagues. Of course, I do. I'm always thinking out for next year. Going, players are out of contract. Who am I going to keep? Who am I going to lose? Are we going to have to redesign everything completely? What's your plan when it comes to summer recruitment, Rich? Because again, we are in that moment right now.
Exactly.
Do you have a plan, or like everything else in our lives, do we just turn up and see what happens?
We'll just turn up and see how it goes. To be honest with you, I don't think it's a surprise anybody to find this out. I'm a little bit of a mix of both. You know, I think one of the things that I always pay quite a lot of attention to is, as you always see at the start of new save, start of every season, you get the report from your assistant. Contracts are expiring in a year's time. Who are you going to keep? Who are you going to move on? So that's always kind of at the back of my mind. You know, go through your squad, you look at who's going, who's potentially going. And then at that point, you can start to kind of plan around, oh, well, I've got a left back that's leaving. I've got 2 defensive midfielders that are potentially going. You know, we'll start looking at who's available in those positions, get the scouts on it and start planning that way. You know, because at the start of things, it sounds very, very sensible. It seems like the right way of doing it. That's what a functioning adult would do. And then I get distracted by transfer listed players. I'm like, ooh.
I didn't need a 4th goalkeeper, but
no, but there's one there. There's one there, and that's a bargain. That's an absolute bargain. £250,000. Oh, this could work. This could work. We can't afford any of the players that we need. So I'm like a magpie. I get distracted by the shiny, lovely things.
Yeah.
You know, so that happens quite frequently. I'm a big fan. I'm a very, very big fan of the 1st of January, and just you know, going through you know, again, one of the shortlists I always have is players whose contracts are expiring in a year. No other metrics at all. Just see who's available on the cheap, because it doesn't matter. Yeah, it just doesn't matter. Are you managing? You know, are you doing a tier 10 save? Are you managing in the Champions League? Who cares? Man likes a freebie. That's all I'm saying. If I can get somebody in for no money, then I feel like I've succeeded.
I love the fact that if you're Real Madrid, for example, and they're going like, you have £300 million to spare, and you're sitting there going, I mean, that's brilliant, but I can get Phil Jones on a free transfer. So guess who's coming in June?
Ooh, Timothy Fosu-Mensah, is it? Yeah, okay. Yep, let's have a conversation about Big Tim, which I've done many times. I love a utility player. But yeah, I'm a sucker for a free transfer. And again, there have been many sets of circumstances where the free transfers have kind of ended up outweighing the necessity to bring in other players. There has been a lot of book balancing at the start of a new season where you're like, right, fantastic. You know, as it's ticking over, you see your little messages. It's like, oh, on the 1st of July, 7 players are joining the club on free transfers, and you're like, oh, this is going to be brilliant. And then they all come in, and then you look at your budget, so you're like, right, I'm now 70k a week over my wage budget. This needs changing quite dramatically, because I've now got 7 centre backs, but I still haven't signed those 2 defensive midfielders and a left back that I needed from last season. So we might have to work around this a little bit.
7 in, 15 out, including most of the first team and one of the free transfers that I've signed by accident. There's always one free transfer you sign, and then when it gets to him turning up, you're just like, I wish I hadn't have done that. Like, I really wish I hadn't have done that. Like, I've signed him, and I didn't realize I could get the next one who was going to sign like 2 days later. That happens, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've done it where I have forgotten that I've put an offer in for a player between sessions of playing the game. I did it with the Burnley Challenge. I put in an offer for Paolo Alsacier. Put in an offer for him because I was like, I need some more options up front. And then went away for a couple of days, came back to the game, and I was looking at my squad, and I was like, I could do with a new central midfielder. So I found a Turkish central midfielder and put an offer in for him. And I'm like, right, we'll see how it goes, because he seemed like he's quite keen on joining, and the fee was acceptable. I was looking at the transfer budget, and I was like, yeah, this comes in just under. We can make this work. And then a week ticks by, and it's like, oh, Paulo Alcácer would like to negotiate his contract with you. You're like, oh, would he? That's out of left field. I don't remember putting in a bid there. That doesn't seem like something I would do. Oh no, it does. It does, because I've just forgotten.
Yeah, it seems a lot like something I would do, isn't it?
Yes. It's actually quite on brand for me. This. So then I'm just going to transfer.
Boss, I've got Paulo Alcácer on the phone. Tell him I'm busy. Tell him I'm busy.
Yeah, tell him I'm in the shower.
Does he sound mad? Does he
sound happy? To gauge his tone before we start lying.
How did he get my? Oh, I rang him and left a voicemail. Oh, okay, interesting. Does he say what it's about? Contract negotiation. Oh dear.
This could be problematic. This could be very, very problematic.
I had a proper Tony Jameson Burnley transfer window. When we did that one, I signed Carvalho from Fulham in January. Thought, oh, that's a lovely bit of business. So I've got Geldhard up top. I've got Weghorst there. They'll put Carvalho and McNeil just behind. I was like, oh, hello, Burnley, with a loan with an option to sign at the end of the season. And then I signed Phil Jones because I got a little bit too dizzy. Thought I needed grounding.
Oh, it's perfect. That is very, very Tony Jameson.
I mean, I must admit though, the two failed signings I went for in that transfer window as well were Belotti and Rugani. So could you have imagined that actually happening? Going, we're just reading the Burnley press. We're linked with Belotti, and we're linked with Rugani. And there's a photograph of Phil Jones holding a Burnley shirt. Why is that?
Tony was unavailable for comment because we called him a lot, but he was always in the shower, so we couldn't get hold of him. No. It's because the monthly challenges there, like in terms of the transfer window, because it's just the one season. It's just a different beast, isn't it? Because with them, you're not planning. There is no future to plan for. You're just like, right, what can I get in that's going to improve this team in the immediate short term for the money that I have available to me? Or if you're me, money I don't have available to me because you just forgot you put in bids for 2 players. Shout out Patrick Vieira, by the way, for taking pity on me and signing 2 players from me on the cheap. Who he then went on to lose his job about 2 months later. So sorry, Paddy. Love you, man. Love you, big dude. He saved my season by coming in and putting in bids for I think Jack Cork and. I can't remember. There was a forward. There was a forward
Vidra,
that left.
Maybe?
No, I kept hold of Vidra. But somebody else left to make way for Alcácer. So Vieira saved my bacon, and then, as I say, just lost his job 2 months later, which was an interesting decision from the Crystal Palace board. Because considering he signed such wonderful players, I was like, my transfer policy is signed Burnley reserves. How could I possibly fail? Sorry, you don't
sign other people's rejects. Excellent,
yeah.
Got you.
Yeah, I'm in.
Fully behind that.
Yeah.
Can you overpay for them as well? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Well, you told me they were a bargain. Yeah. So it's
ruined the club financially. Got you.
I'm in. I'm absolutely 100% in on that. Yeah.
I did, of course. Ask our Discord and our Twitter, of course, other people's plans for both summer and winter transfer business. Unsurprisingly, Jebaru, wait till deadline day, then panic buy. Perfect. Big fan of that.
Stunning.
Big fan of that.
Absolutely stunning.
Of course, Rogie agreed. That's the only way. That's the only way to do it. So again, fully behind it. Jord, do the business early, lose the first game of the season, panic buy 2 more strikers that you don't need, rinse and repeat. I've got a lot of time for that, Jord. A lot of time for that.
Absolutely.
Jamie94, I always try and get most of my business done early before other clubs come sniffing around my targets. Since I'm managing in Sweden with the seasons running differently, this is a very, very interesting point. I also try to get players on pre-contracts. They sign at the end of the season before other clubs in Europe have a chance to snap them up. Now, Jamie, I hear you loud he clear. Because, of course, we're at Odds Ball Club. We lose players mid-season as well. Those pesky European clubs, because our league calendar is out of sync with everybody else's. So everyone else's season finishes and they're like, oh, we need to go and buy players. And I'm like, hey, my season started brilliantly. And then, oh, why are Inter Milan and AC Milan and Juventus and Porto all currently at my matches? You've been talking to my players, but they can't go because we have a season. Like, but no, it's fine. The ball won't sell them because they're loyal. They've gone. Oh, is there any chance I can keep them for the rest of the year, please? Because if you don't let us have them, then we're fucked.
Oh, I hate that so much. It's there's no guilt like it in the world than when, you know, especially if you are, you know, trying to sign Scandi players, for example, and the offer's accepted, everything goes through, and then they come back just as the deal's about to go through, and they say, "Can we have him back on loan for the rest of the season, please?" And then you say no. Like
Rich Owens comes out.
I feel bad. I feel bad if I run over a pedestrian in Grand Theft Auto. Like that for me.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. Are you okay? I'll call an ambulance for you. You'll be fine. That causes me anxiety. But imagine denying a delightful Scandinavian club like the ability to, you know, essentially finish their season competitively, because you say he is your starting striker and he has scored 24 goals for you already this season. But I just really, you know, if my starting two strikers get injured and my third and fourth choice strikers also get injured, and I can't recall that other lad back from loan, then I'm probably going to need him.
Cup third round.
I'm gonna need him. I'm gonna need him. So I'm really sorry, boys. I can't help you there. I just can't help you. Honestly, there's no guilt like it in the world. I feel horrible doing it, but I do it every time.
I understand that. It's like the thing. So, you know, if you are sort of like looking in those leagues, then you take the rough with the smooth end of the day. You know what's coming. I think Vince Gray had mentioned he manages in Ireland, so it's very, very similar to that. So he gets loads of frees joining mid-season. So he looks at it the other way around. Of course, we do have other people. Chris Archer here, identify loads of targets, then get frustrated when I can't sell anyone to generate the funds or space in my wage budget to buy them. End up spending half my budget on 17-year-olds who won't be in the team for at least 2 years, and a backup left back.
Just there's always a backup left back. There's always a backup left back. It's
who's never good enough. Ever.
Never good enough. Never good enough. Like, you bring him in and the scout reports, they're like, he'll do a job at this level. You know, he might get a little bit better. He's never getting better. That's him now. That's his lot for life.
I always make sure I buy 2 left backs, and the scout report says lives close to the ground. That's literally just can get here quickly.
Local. He's like,
drives.
Yeah, he's
driver has own PA. Like, that's something.
He's on a pay-as-you-go contract.
Rogi's gone with go big at the start, lose the players I'd earmarked to bigger clubs, get frustrated, and then just rummage through the island of misfit players for stopgaps. I feel very seen at this point.
Yeah, I feel exposed. Yeah.
I think there's a reason that Rogi is a moderator on both our Twitch streams. Going, let's just see if they recognise this when they read it out loud.
Yeah. What's this? Is it a massive amount of shade just coming out? Oh no!
It's absolutely that, isn't it? Again, Vince has said, to have the budget to go big and early, free agents. For him, he says, waifs and strays, some random bloke off the street is basically anybody they'll do at his level. Again, yeah, I'm on board there. Scott McIntosh has said on his Ross County save, he buys cheap, then sells them on. Recently got someone on a free, put a £35 million release clause in, had them for a season. The release clause was met, paid for the new stadium.
That is the sound of somebody that we should, in hindsight, be taking notes from, because that is good business. That is exceptional business.
It's brilliant, but you can't play a stadium. Can you? So on one hand, he's sat going 35 million quid. That's brilliant. I'll get that to reinvest. And the board are going, reinvest we shall in facilities. Facilities aren't going to score us goals.
I've got a scout report on my,
but they will bring you more players in the future once we've paid the facilities off. And you, my friend, will be long gone.
I've got a scout report here on my desk for Hans Bricks and Dave Mortar. All right, well, fine. Yeah, well, Bricks and Mortar it is. What do you mean over?
We don't play a 4-4-2. Yeah, I feel a lot on them. That says a lot to me. There's a lot of sort of areas I'm looking at going, that's definitely me. That's definitely me right there. Like I have a plan. I tend to have a plan. Like we're talking about this in a future episode with RDF. Because you mentioned there that your only main metric really is are they available and are they free? I tend to look more towards calling it Moneyball is lazy because it isn't true Moneyball. Shout out, of course, to people who are doing Moneyball saves at the minute. Jack, the Cult of FM, is doing Moneyball over on YouTube. Obviously, RDF Tactics himself is doing Moneyball at the minute. And it's definitely worth a look at. I think FM Grasshopper was doing Moneyball as well. He's great to go and have a read of. So go and check out some people who are doing proper Moneyball. And of course, Zealand did a Moneyball video as well. So check all that out and then come back to me and go, Tony, what you're talking is nonsense. You're not doing Moneyball at all. You're just doing buying players by stats. And I'm like, yes, I do, because I like to have the idea. I always look for my positions that I want to replace. And you've seen it on my streams. I'm very old school. I've got a pen and paper. Particularly if I've taken over a new club, I'll write down the players we've got in the squad, look at whether or not they're going to be featuring the team going forward, identifying the positions that I want to replace. So, for example, of course, we've got most of our team are out of contract towards the end of the season. I'll retain some of the players, release some of those players, but the players that I'm looking to release will be because they're not good enough in that position, essentially. And it might well be that I'm left with, for example, this season at Brackley, I was left with no left backs and no left winger, really, or left midfield. It was kind of my key areas that I really needed to strengthen. A goalkeeper would have been preferable as well, because my goalkeeper was pretty poor, 39 years old. But we had one who could do a job, so I was like, right, keep him in. I don't want to just go and buy another goalkeeper for the sake of it. So when I'm looking for specific positions, I look for stuff, and I always use the example for, if I'm looking for defenders, I don't look for tackles, because for me, I'm very much in that Italian Baresi, Maldini mindset of, if I'm making a tackle, I've already made a mistake. Like I like positioning, I like blocks, I like interceptions, I like clearances, I like anticipation. That's what I like. So I look for those stats that have happened in the season. So number of interceptions, number of blocks made, number of key headers won. And I'll go for those rather than tackles, because, again, I always understand it as, if you were to look at the stats in the Premier League, you wouldn't say that the Man City or the Liverpool defence were the best players or the best defenders in the world, because they're not making tackles, because they're intercepting the ball, they're pressing, they're forcing turnovers. So if you're looking purely for tackles, the stats are not going to give you what you want. You're going to be getting all of your lower end players, because they're the ones who are putting tackles in. Sure. So I look at it that way. I look at things like chances created as well, and sort of conversion and stuff like that. So that's what I look for, really. And I try and recruit that way, even with lower league mentality. However, I do always, every single time, whenever a scout says this is an A-star player, you must sign him, whatever, I go, okay. And I can't justify why, other than he's paid to do that, even though in the National League North he has judging player ability and potential of 4 as his own attributes. I'm going, well, he clearly knows, because that's his job, right? Yeah. He says this is the best player ever. So we have to bring him in, and sometimes it don't work.
No, not always. Sometimes, especially in the lower leagues, you're like, come on, man, I pay you £300 a week to do this. Come on, earn that money. Please earn that money. I'm the same as you. If I see like an A+ rating, and I've got the budget, then the temptation is always to deviate from any kind of plan and just, take a look at that player, especially if it's somebody who can make an instant impact. If it's, because a lot of the time when you see kind of the higher ratings from scouts, it'll be they play at a lower level at the moment, but they have the potential in 3 or 4 seasons to be the best centre back in this league, or one of the best in this league. And those are the ones I'm like, I mean, I could spend 70% of my transfer budget on this player, but then that player is not necessarily going to benefit my team straight away. Whereas if it's somebody who's like, hey, this is somebody who's really, really, really good, and they're going to come straight into your team and they're going to improve it instantly, and they've still got that rating, that's where I'll look at it and I'll say, hey, actually, yeah, this is probably worth a shout.
The problem, of course, with that is that those players are comparative to the players you currently have in your squad. So if you are, and this happened a lot at Burnley, I got a lot of A+ players going, hey, you should sign this guy, you should sign this guy. And I'm like, maybe we should. But at this point, I'm looking at a squad of 72 players. And then I'm going, but you said these guys were all brilliant. And they're like, yeah, compared to the bunch of losers you had at the club. Like, come on. We've told you to buy a lad from Bournemouth who's played 1 league game. Like, I bought him as well. He was actually quite good. Shout out to, I think it's Gavin Kilkenny, a young Irish midfielder. So I think he might actually be quite handy on the game. So he was like £500,000 or something, but he was definitely an A-star player. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, and I do think those streams as well, when you're trying to put those recruitment strategies in place, I think they can be either really fun if you have a plan, or they can be so long. Like I remember when we had the Uruguayan summer window was like 5 months or something. So I was like, we're simming through this offline. We're going on holiday and we'll come back and see what's what. But yeah, I think at first I used to be sort of like, I don't really know whether people want to watch me sit through transfer targets and scout, because I don't use, because of course I also use attribute masking as well. So it's, can you check out such and such player? Go, yeah, I could. Or I could just tell you right now that we won't know about him, because we will have one stat attribute, that will say potentially between 11 and 18. And you go, take a guess. And of course we scout him and it comes out that the attribute was actually 5. So
exactly. I actively apologize to people on stream when it gets to, end of June, early July. And I'm like, because to me, and again, it's one of my favorite parts of the season, is I will go through so many different leagues and I will set the filters I'll look at a league, set the filters to look at players who have recently been released. And I will go through and I was like, right, let's just start here, because there are going to be players on these lists that my scouts haven't picked up, and let's just see what's available. And I was like, to me, it's like being 6 and being given the Argos catalogue. And I'm like, this is brilliant. Love this.
Wonderful analogy.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Exactly the same way. Like I'm circling players that I might want, and I'm going to go ask me mum if I can have one if I'm good this week. But to somebody sat there watching me do that, I'm like, I'm so sorry, because this is going to be horrible. I'm going to try and make this as engaging as I possibly can, but I've got a good 12 leagues to go through here, because there's going to be somebody, and every time there is, it's very, very rare that you do that and you come away with it like there's nothing here for me. I love that, but it's doing that and making it engaging to an audience as well. That's the tricky thing. It's pre-season admin streams. They're a bit Marmite, really, aren't they? Some people are super into them. I always thoroughly enjoyed, especially in the especially with your FM21 stuff. With the Posh, and taking those 2 years to just do nothing as well. That little 2-year sabbatical you took in the middle of the save, which was, a ballsy move. But I love the preseason saves, because to me, it's setting up how it's the building blocks of your season moving forwards, isn't it? I also can completely appreciate that, there are some people that aren't into it. But I know full well, and you will probably be the same, that there'll be certain names that you might not see popping up in your streams frequently during preseason, because they're there for the story, they're there for the narrative. But there are people that, like me, that are like, no, this is the good stuff. This is what I'm here for.
Shout out to Mrs. J, who says they are the most boring streams and she doesn't understand why anybody watches them.
Hello, Mrs. J.
And the thing is, it's great because those streams aren't for her. But
No.
I find that the pre-season recruitment streams are really popular. And again, I'm like you. I'm like, do people want to watch this? And I think we just seem to hit a bit of a nice rhythm that people get into it, and they're like, because again, we've just missed out on a promotion, or we've just staved off relegation. There is always that like, okay, right, we're on this, right? What are we going to do next year? How are we going to approach it? So yeah, I think it's always interesting going forward. So as I say, we'll get RDF on. We'll talk to him about how he does with his recruitment, particularly now he works attributeless as well, even more so than attribute masking. And then of course we'll look at a little bit more Moneyball stuff going forward. Before we wrap up, though, we've sort of touched upon a little bit of Burnley. Of course, Burnley and PSV challenge is over. Thank you, of course, to everyone who took part. Rich, how did you find that challenge yourself?
You know what? I actually really enjoyed it. I've got to say, I had a really, really good time doing it. It was, I think for me, playing it offline, I think there was more kind of twists and turns than I was expecting for just a season at a Premier League club, for sure. Because, you know, it's pretty much my first experience of managing the Premier League this year. I really, really enjoyed it. I've got to say, you know, it's the save is still there. You know, it's I didn't ruin the club. It's not like I've signed players. I'm like, hey, I'll give you £5 million now, but next season I'll give you 40. You know, there's been none of that. The club is stable. The club is financially healthy. I could go back to it if I really wanted to, and it might be something that I dip in and out of, kind of offline over the next few months, because I've really enjoyed the squad. Like I built a good squad. A lot of transfers. I made more transfers. I think I made more transfers in this challenge than I did probably cumulatively in most of the other challenges that we've done on the Discord.
Yeah,
I went big into the transfer market. Of course, the first player I signed was Barry Bannon, because why wouldn't you?
To be honest, I'm amazed you did any transfers after that, because you've signed the world's greatest player. So
exactly, it's a cheat code, isn't it? It's like, well,
you've leveled everyone else up.
Exactly. What do I do now? What do I do now? Because then, you know, it doesn't matter who else I bring in. They've got, you know, goals and assists for days coming from midfield. I mean, it seems like cheating, but I had a great time. I think the biggest thing for me was just, like I said, I enjoyed watching what was going on behind the scenes. I think, and I'll probably need to go back to the save file and check it, I think there were a total of 10, maybe 11 sackings during the season of like other Premier League managers. And and again, I got incredibly lucky, because it always seemed to be a manager would get sacked and within a week or two, they would be on my fixture list. And so, you know, I think I played an Arsenal team that were managed by like Per Mertesacker, who were not a very, very good Arsenal team at all. I think most of the top 6 that I played throughout the season, I'd say a good half of those fixtures I played against teams that are managed by kind of like caretaker managers. So that was great fun. Massively enjoyed that.
Excellent. I'll be honest, I'm the same as yourself. Like, I haven't done the Premier League, of course, this year. I obviously took Burnley, as you know. I loved the fact that I got the message that said Burnley secure survival in the Premier League. I was like,
that was good.
Job done. Yeah. More than happy with that. I started off as a 4-4-2, had mixed results with it. And then I went to a 3-5-2, which was becoming a lot more balanced. But then I went to like a 3-2-2-2-1, and that was better. That was much better. So again, the save file's there. Of course, we have mentioned before as part of one of the tiers of our Patreon, where you can get access to our save files. So, you know, those files are available for people on that Patreon level to come and have a little look at and maybe play around with if you wish to do so. But Burnley is done. PSV, of course, is also done. There were people who did PSV challenge. I think shout out to Wickdiv, who I believe did PSV. We have a new challenge, though, this month. And we're not in England. We are in Canada.
Yes,
we are off to manage Valor in Canada. So shout out to Scooter, who of course does a lot of work with Valor over the water there. I think it was Jord who came up with the idea. He was like, look, Canadian Premier League's just started. How's about we go over to Canada? Of course, our former co-host was delighted with the idea of going back to Canada and has already started the challenge and may even actually complete this one. So we will see. We will see. We will see. He has texted me saying that he's going to go. He's going to go deep on it because he says that he feels like he had unfinished business on how he did his Canadian save. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good.
Sure, yeah.
So that'll be fun because I know he was massively into it. So yeah, 1 season at Valor in the Canadian Premier League. The save file is, of course, in the Discord. If you want to come and join us, please do so. The link for the Discord is in the description below. And yeah, it's just fun. It's just fun. Of course, if you win it, then like say you do get an invite into TJFM versus the community, which is always a bit of a fun time for drafting. Obviously, this month we did the 92-93 database with the Mad Scientist. So yeah, it's just a bit of fun. It's a chance to manage someone different than maybe you won't be managing normally. And it is a chance to meet people from around the community who, again, are happy to share stories and save ideas and tips. And yeah, just to manage outside the box, I think. So yeah, you'll get a few updates from us about that. Rich, are you looking forward to Canada? Have you had experience of Canada leading up to this point yet?
This is going to be, I'll be honest. Yeah, this is going to be my first experience managing in Canada. So I'm very excited about it. You know, I always enjoy my first season in a new country. You know, it's always good fun, and I love the 1 season challenge format as well. So I'm very, very much looking forward to getting stuck in and getting started with that.
Yeah, me too. I've bought a brand new tub of French vanilla latte from Tim Hortons, so fully on board with that. If this doesn't get us the Tim Hortons sponsorship deal going forward, I don't think anything is, to be honest. So we'll try our best with it. But yeah, as I say, if you fancy getting involved, come and join us over on Discord. But I think that's probably enough for tonight, to be honest. I think we've had a decent conversation. We've talked playoffs. We've talked summer strategies. We have, of course, then mentioned next month's challenge as well. Rich, if people want to look out for you and work out where they can see you streaming or get in touch via social media, where can people do so?
You can do all of those things at Rich Owens FM on Twitter and twitch.tv/Rich Owens FM if you want to watch me doing the streams. Please come. We have a nice time. It's like this, but Tony's not there.
Tony is there. Tony's there.
Tony's there. You just can't see him, but you can see the words that he's typing. But it's just my face, not Tony's face. So less good faces, but you know, content. Tony, what about you? Where are they finding you and all the wonderful things you do?
So you can find me on Twitter, which is at Tony Jameson, and of course twitch.tv/Tony Jameson FM. And you can also follow the podcast on Twitter, which is at FMTPod. On YouTube, we now have our own custom URL. So thank you so much to everyone who's subscribed to the YouTube channel and has been watching the podcast on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. The YouTube link is youtube.com/football manager therapy. So that's absolutely awesome. If you do want to go and check it out, please go and drop us a subscription, give videos likes and all that sort of stuff, and drop comments below. That'd be lovely. And of course, you can follow us and support us via Patreon, which is patreon.com/FMTPod. You can support the podcast from as little as £1 a month. We've still got loads of £1 memberships left. You get exactly the same benefit as if you were paying £3 previously. So we do get, of course, the weekly episode early. You get access to a private Discord channel. There's also additional benefits as you move up through the tiers. We mentioned before things like access to our save files and introductions to the TGFM versus the community draft tournaments and discount off merch, which again, if you're in the Discord, you have seen some of the preliminary designs and they appear to have been accepted quite well. So, you know, there's something to think about. If you are able to support the podcast, that'd be much appreciated. Of course, the best way to support is just, as I say, follow us on Twitter and let people know that you've listened. So I guess really all we need to do at this point is say thank you very much for listening and or watching. Hope you're all well. Stay safe. Take care. And we will see you all for another episode of Football Manager Therapy.